What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off what's going on. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a massive day for the markets and NIO as well, as we have the PPI data coming out and also the first part of the FOMC meeting as Jerome Powell will be speaking. So I'm going to give you all the context you need to know about the market for tomorrow and also what NIO put on their Twitter page. That's once again very bullish news for the long-term future despite the red we're seeing. And now before I break anything down about NIO, before I talk about why on earth this thing does have some potential downside for the short term for the next couple of months, but for the long term I'm extremely bullish. I can't wait for what the future holds and its potential hasn't changed. Now before I get started, I got to mention a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed 6 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And you could always sell these 6 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NIO shares for free in this limited time offer that ends in just 2 weeks. So please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So NIO just got hammered today, down almost 12%. I mean, it did take a bit of a hit. And if compared to the overall market, it did actually drop even harder. Now, I want to talk about why on earth this is actually very important and what this may signify for the future. But what I want to talk about is why tomorrow is going to be a big day too, because remember, we have PPI data coming out, which is the producer price index. This is going to be most likely in kind of like in unison with that of the CPI reports. And we can see right here what the producer price index essentially is it measures the average change in the selling prices received by domestic producers for their output. So it's important for the manufacturing side and not the consumers. So with this said, this is going to be important for the markets because it's going to give us another indication of how inflation is affecting the productivity of producers as well. And if it's too high, that's not going to be a good sign for the markets. Now, I also want to talk about why on earth that's huge in unison with what's happening tomorrow as well, because June 14th is tomorrow, and that's going to be the day that Jerome Powell is going to speak about the FOMC meeting, the new changes to monetary policy, and what he has to say about the markets. So if you're new to this, remember the FOMC meeting is a 2-day period. It's starting tomorrow. That's when Jerome Powell is going to speak to us. I believe it's going to be in a pre-recorded message. And then the 15th, right? The 15th, that's going to be the big day, which is Wednesday. That's when they release their new policy, to what degree they're going to raise the federal funds rate. That's huge for the markets because the federal funds rate is what's going to control the cost to borrow money across the entire USA, control inflation, and other things like that. So when it comes to what's going on, okay, for June 15th, there's almost a 35% chance we're going to get that 50 basis point rate hike. I'm sorry, that 75 basis point rate hike. There's a 35% chance for that. And there's a 65% chance, that we're going to get the 50 basis point rate hike. So once again, 65% chance for the 50 basis point rate hike, and there's a 35% chance for the 75 basis point rate hike. So we're most likely going to get a 50 basis point rate hike, and you can see according to CME Group, the 50 basis point rate hike right here, it has already been priced in. And right now, we're actually starting to see them start to price in that 75 basis point rate hike. So it's very probable that we're prepared for either situation. But as of right now, there's a lot of uncertainty that's causing the market to kind of move in these different directions. So what does this mean for NIO and the overall market? Well, if we look at the SPY, because NIO is kind of, like I said before, it has an anchor. The anchor that pushes it down would be the overall market. If you look at the SPY, what happened? We dropped down, at 402. We gapped all the way down right here to 395. Then we gapped down again after we closed at like 389. We gapped all the way down to 381. And you can see right here, the SPY looks pretty bearish. I mean, it it is set for a bit of a bounce soon, but it seems like it has a little bit more downside before we actually get that bounce. And the same could be said about the Nasdaq if I actually bring this up. Very similar pattern. We got this gap down, sideways action, another giant gap down. Both of them are down to some substantial degree. So for NIO, what does this mean? What does this mean going forward? I want to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So looking at NIO, we could actually see some very interesting things that are happening right here. And obviously we can see it's respecting a bit of a downward trend. We could actually draw out a trend line. I'm not going to do that just to make this simple. You can see NIO is just dropping and dropping and dropping. It's very clear. We don't need any fancy lines to really show that. And what I'm trying to talk about is the fact that we're in this point where we're not seeing that big bounce just yet. And we're approaching that previous golden pocket range that I did mention in one of my previous videos. So let me show you where it is. So a long time ago, when NIO was actually in that retracement zone, our key zone was that $14.74 range, between there and that $14.43 range. From a Fibonacci retracement perspective, that showed you where on earth the golden pocket is. So what I want to talk about is, look, it's very simple. If NIO can't actually push above that $16 range and hold above that and start pushing to like 16.5, if we keep dropping, we're going to end up dropping to 15.5. And if we can't hold that, the next stop would be about 15 flat. And, if that doesn't bounce, then we're most likely going to make it to this golden pocket. In fact, it's less probable we actually bounce off 15 and more probable we bounce off 14.74 or 14.43. Once again, the golden pocket. So with that said, those are the key targets you should be looking out for when it comes to the more bearish possibilities over the next couple of days / weeks, depending on where on earth this thing is. If it starts pushing up, remember, we have that a bit of a resistance at like 16 flat, but I don't think it's going to be that strong because we're super close to it. And we did actually hold above it for some time. Now, what I would anticipate is 16.5, very, very key resistance zone. Then 17, 17.4, 17.8. And you can see there are so many of them at these close ranges going all the way up to that $18 range. So the majority of the indicators are suggesting this thing is probably actually going to continue to drop. Let me show you why I think that. So let me actually, pull up my EMAs. We can even pull up my super trend, RSI and MACD, right? I like to use these for the most. And what you'll notice is from the EMA perspective, we got that 1348 EMA crossover. I don't think it's that clear. Let me actually, Let's actually make this bigger. So right here, 1348 EMA crossover. This big drop is continuing on the 5-minute, and we haven't really seen that like nice curl or this big indicator that we're actually kind of breaking out of this trend. We're also trading below the 200 EMA, which is an indicator that we are in a bit of a downward trend. So it does look pretty bearish to me, in my opinion. And on top of that, there is this gap. I think we might have a gap up here somewhere. So yeah, we have this big gap, but I don't see this getting filled for a while. It may take a couple of days for the market to get that relief bounce. And if it does fill, it's going to bring NIO back to that 18. So it just goes to show that NIO is not necessarily a dead cat in the water, right? It will fill the gaps up eventually. It's just that the market's bearish. It's pushing NIO down. It's dragging it down, giving us a very good buying opportunity. Now, on a daily perspective, let me actually bring up the daily candles just to show you something else that's interesting. And what you'll notice is the super trend is one good indicator that could actually help you understand whether if we're more in a bearish position, if we're seeing some bearish momentum. And I'm using the daily candles, and we can see for the first day on this daily chart, we got a sell signal, which is an indication that NIO is most likely going to continue to drop. Once again, the same thing is actually being shown from the MACD. The RSI, we're about to get that 1348, not 1348, MACD and signal line crossover, and RSI is also dropping on the daily perspective. 2 hour shows the exact same thing. I mean, the MACD is already starting to drop on the 2 hour, right? RSI is pretty low, so looks pretty bearish. I mean, that's the easiest way for me to put it. What I think is going to happen is something very similar to today in a way. It's going to be pretty choppy tomorrow because of what's happening with the markets, with Powell speaking. And what I anticipate is this. Let me bring up the 5-minute candle just to show you. And let me close these indicators just to actually draw this out. So what I think is going to happen is we're most likely going to see a more bearish possibility. And I'm just going to go over that for you. we're going to look for a zone where NIO bounces from. Okay, that's really what tomorrow is mainly about. Will NIO continue to drop, or are we going to get that nice bounce that we have been waiting for? So let me actually bring this up. Check this out right here. NIO tomorrow is probably going to drop in the beginning of the day. It might get a slight bounce off 15.5, and then we might continue even lower. And hopefully we hold 15. I would like to see this thing hold 15. If that's not the case, then this very key zone at that 14.7 range, that's where NIO might get that nice bounce. Maybe trade in this range for a little time. Maybe get a bit of a push when Jerome Powell starts speaking, see some crazy action, big drop like this maybe into like lunch time. And after that, just continue with these kind of like bearish moves, maybe closing on that low 15 range. That's essentially what I'm seeing. It's also dependent on the PPI data, and maybe Powell says something that causes the market to push up. That's possible. I just think that's less likely. And I am thinking that NIO may end up in this range very soon. With that said and done, I want to thank you all for listening. Please have a great rest of the day, and I will see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because long term, I'm still very bullish, right? They're still doing very well. When I forgot to mention this, hold on. One last thing. The NIO ESA brings the future of comfort with improved ingress and egress, intelligent air purification system, and up to 1,900 liters of extended cargo space. So with that said, still a great company, amazing expansion plans. Once the market starts to recover, NIO will recover too. It's just a good buying opportunity right now. Anyways, this time for real, it's not the end of the world. NIO to the moon. Enjoy the rest of your day, and peace out.